ladies and gentlemen. There are stories among us that are neither sung by minstrels nor painted on grand canvases, yet they are no less heroic. The tale I speak of today is one of quiet valor, the story of a woman who fights alone, bearing her trials with a strength that defies comprehension. There exists within every soul a reservoir of strength that often lies dormant, untested, and perhaps even unacknowledged, until the storms of life force it into action. This strength is not bestowed by the external world, nor is it the product of favorable circumstances. It emerges, instead, from within a hidden spring that reveals its abundance only when all other sources have dried up. The peculiar nature of this inner strength is that it is rarely discovered in comfort or ease. Ease has a way of dulling the senses, lulling us into a kind of spiritual complacency. We do not test the bridge until the weight of necessity drives us to cross it. Similarly, we do not fathom the depth of our own courage until the weight of life's burdens presses us to our knees and forces us to stand anew. It is a strange paradox, is it not? That the moments when we feel most forsaken are often the very moments when our true power is revealed. There is a tendency in our age to mistake external support for strength. We think of armies as powerful because they are vast and well-equipped. We think of nations as unshakable because they are wealthy and secure. And yet, history teaches us that true strength does not come from numbers or resources, but from the spirit that animates them. A solitary individual, armed with conviction and fortified by their inner resolve, can withstand forces that would crush an army. This strength, however, does not come without cost. It is not a gift handed to us at birth, like the color of our eyes or the shape of our hands. It must be cultivated, often in the harshest conditions. It grows in the soil of adversity, watered by tears and nourished by the relentless pursuit of meaning. It is the strength of the single seed that pushes through rock and stone to find the light above. Such a seed, though solitary, carries within it the potential for a forest. What is this strength, then, if not a reflection of the divine image in which we are made? It is the whisper of eternity in the finite being, the reminder that there is something within us that no circumstance can extinguish. When all else is stripped away, when family, friends, and earthly comforts are no longer within reach, this strength remains, not as a last resort, but as a first principle. It is the core of who we are, the essence of our being, unshaken by the transient trials of this world. There is a curious quality to such strength. It is not loud or boastful. It does not demand recognition or applause. Indeed, it often goes unnoticed, even by the one who possesses it. It works silently, like the roots of a great tree, unseen yet vital. It is this silent labor that enables an individual to endure, to persevere, and ultimately to triumph in ways that defy explanation. This strength is not mere self-reliance, for self-reliance suggests an independence that is, at its heart, isolating. True inner strength is not isolation, but integration. It is the harmonization of all that we are, our fears, our hopes, our weaknesses, and our convictions into a singular force that drives us forward. It does not deny the existence of fear, rather, it faces fear with the quiet assurance that fear, too, can be overcome. Such strength is a mystery, and like all mysteries, it cannot be fully explained. It can only be experienced, often in the crucible of life's greatest challenges. It is the quiet voice that says, continue, when every other voice, both within and without, whispers surrender. It is the unseen force that holds the world together, one individual at a time. Suffering, though universally dreaded, is a profound and mysterious element of human existence. It is the shadow that touches every life, the unwelcome guest who arrives unbidden and often overstays their visit. Yet, for all its bitterness, suffering possesses a dignity that cannot be ignored, a sacred weight that transforms the soul in ways that comfort and ease never could. The world is quick to dismiss suffering as an unqualified evil, something to be avoided at all costs. Modern thought, with its fixation on progress and convenience, would have us believe that the elimination of pain is the highest good. But this view is both shallow and mistaken, for it fails to recognize that suffering is not merely an obstacle to be overcome, it is often the very means by which the soul is refined. Just as fire tempers steel and pressure forms diamonds, so too does suffering shape the human spirit into something stronger, something nobler. What gives suffering its dignity is not the pain itself, but the response it elicits. In suffering, we are confronted with a stark choice to be consumed by despair or to rise above it. It is here, in the crucible of anguish, that the true character of a person is revealed. The great paradox is that suffering, which seems to strip us of everything, often reveals what is most essential. It peels away the superficial layers of our identity, exposing the raw and unadorned core of who we are. There is a certain majesty in the one who endures suffering with grace. It is not the majesty of outward strength or worldly power, but the quiet nobility of a soul that refuses to be broken. Such a person does not deny the reality of their pain, they do not pretend that it is less than it is. Yet they carry it with a dignity that transforms the very nature of their burden. Their suffering becomes not a mark of defeat, but a badge of courage, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Suffering also has the peculiar ability to awaken within us a sense of our own humanity. When we suffer, we are reminded of our frailty, our dependence, and our need for something greater than ourselves. It humbles us, stripping away the illusion of self-sufficiency and forcing us to confront the limits of our strength. Yet in this humility there is a hidden grace, for it is often in our weakness that we discover the true source of our strength. Moreover, suffering connects us to others in a way that few other experiences can. There is a profound solidarity in shared pain, a recognition that no matter how different our lives may be, we are united by the common thread of human frailty. To suffer is to join the great human story, to become part of a lineage that stretches back to the beginning of time. It is to stand shoulder to shoulder with all those who have borne the weight of life's trials, and in doing so, to find a sense of belonging that transcends our isolation. The dignity of suffering is also rooted in its capacity to teach us. Suffering has a way of clarifying our priorities, of stripping away the trivial and the temporary to reveal what truly matters. It forces us to confront the great questions of life, questions of meaning, purpose, and destiny that we might otherwise ignore. In this sense, suffering is not an enemy but a teacher, a guide that leads us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Yet this understanding comes at a cost, for suffering is not a gentle teacher. It demands much of us, and it often leaves scars that never fully heal. But even these scars carry a dignity of their own, for they are the marks of battles fought and endured. They are the visible reminders of invisible victories, the proof that we have faced the storm and emerged, if not unscathed, then at least unbroken. In the end, suffering is not something to be sought, but neither is it something to be feared. It is a reality of life, an inescapable part of the human condition. And while it may challenge us, wound us, and even threaten to overwhelm us, it also offers us the opportunity to rise to our fullest potential. For in suffering we find not only the depth of our pain, but also the depth of our strength, our courage, and our humanity. There is a peculiar kind of silence that descends upon the soul when one is isolated. It is not the comfortable quiet of rest, or the soothing hush of a tranquil evening. It is a silence that presses inwards, heavy and unrelenting, as if the very world has turned its back. In this silence, every external voice fades away, those of family, friends, and even the comforting hum of society itself. And yet, it is precisely in this void, in this stark and lonely wilderness, that the still, small voice of faith begins to call. Isolation, though often feared, possesses an uncanny power to strip away the distractions of life. When the familiar supports are gone, when the usual assurances fail, we are left with nothing but ourselves and the great questions of existence. Who am I when no one is watching? What is my purpose when there is no one to affirm it? What remains when all that I have built my life upon is taken from me? These questions, though unsettling, are the fertile soil in which the seeds of faith can take root. Faith, in its truest form, is not the product of comfort or certainty. It does not spring forth from a life untroubled by doubt or untouched by hardship. Rather, faith is born in the crucible of isolation, when all that is visible seems to crumble, and we are forced to look beyond the seen to the unseen. It is in the silence of isolation that we are confronted with the reality of our own insufficiency, our inability to control the world or even to sustain ourselves entirely, and it is here, in this humbling recognition, that faith calls to us not as a demand, but as an invitation. This call is not a loud or commanding voice. It does not force its way into the heart. It is a gentle whisper, a quiet tug at the edges of the soul. It beckons us to trust in something greater than ourselves, to believe that there is a purpose and a presence beyond the immediate and the tangible. It is the call to lift our eyes above the horizon of our loneliness and to fix them on the eternal. There is a peculiar sweetness to faith that arises in isolation, a kind of intimacy that cannot be found in the noise and busyness of communal life. In solitude, there is no one to impress, no audience before whom we must perform. Faith, in this context, becomes deeply personal, a dialogue between the soul and the divine. It is not mediated by rituals or institutions, though these may support it in other seasons. It is raw and unadorned, like a cry in the wilderness. Isolation often sharpens the contrast between the temporal and the eternal. When the comforts and distractions of life are stripped away, we are left with the stark reality of our dependence. This dependence, far from being a weakness, is the very foundation of faith. For to have faith is to acknowledge that we are not self-sufficient, that we are not the masters of our own destiny. It is to recognize that there is a strength beyond our strength, a wisdom beyond our understanding, and a love that reaches us even in the darkest of places. But this call to faith is not without its challenges. In isolation, doubt often rises to the surface, like sediment stirred up from the bottom of a clear stream. The absence of external affirmation can make us question the very foundations of our belief. Are we truly heard? Does our struggle have meaning? Is there truly a hand that guides us even when we cannot feel its touch? These doubts, though painful, are not to be feared, for it is in wrestling with them that faith is tested and strengthened. Faith in isolation does not promise immediate answers or easy comfort. It does not dispel the loneliness or erase the pain, but it does offer a new perspective, a way of seeing the world and our place within it. It transforms isolation from a barren desert into a sacred wilderness, a place where the soul can encounter the divine in a way that is unmediated and profoundly personal. And though faith may begin as a whisper, it grows stronger with each step we take in trust. The act of believing, of holding on to hope in the face of isolation, is itself a victory. It is a declaration that we are not defined by our circumstances, that there is a reality greater than the sum of our fears and sorrows. Faith calls us to step out of the shadows of our loneliness and into the light of a presence that is always with us, even when it seems most distant. There is something profoundly mysterious about the human soul. Though it resides in fragile vessels of flesh and blood, it possesses a strength that defies understanding. The soul, unlike the body, is not bound by the limits of physical endurance. While the body may falter under the weight of suffering, the soul can rise, renewed and unbroken, even in the face of the gravest trials. It is this indomitable quality, the resilience of the soul, that stands as one of the greatest testaments to the dignity and wonder of human existence. Resilience is not mere stubbornness or the refusal to yield. It is not the brute persistence of a stone standing unmoved against the tides. Rather, the resilience of the soul is more akin to the willow tree that bends in the wind but does not break, or the stream that carves its way through mountains, not by force but by quiet, persistent motion. It is a strength that adapts, transforms, and endures not in spite of adversity but often because of it. The soul's resilience is forged in the furnace of life's hardships. It is in the moments of greatest despair, when every outward sign suggests defeat, that the soul discovers its true capacity for endurance. Paradoxically, it is the very pressure of suffering that often reveals the hidden reserves of strength within us. A soul that has never faced hardship remains untested, like a sword that has never known the heat of the forge or the strike of the hammer. But the soul that has endured suffering is refined, its resilience tempered, and its strength made manifest. This resilience is not simply a matter of survival. To endure is one thing, to rise transformed is another. The resilient soul does not merely withstand the storms of life, it grows through them. Each trial, though painful, becomes an opportunity for growth, a step in the journey toward greater depth and wisdom. The soul that embraces this journey, however unwillingly at first, finds itself stronger, more compassionate, and more attuned to the truths that lie beyond the immediate and the visible. The resilience of the soul is also deeply connected to its capacity for hope. Hope is not a naive optimism that denies the reality of suffering, but a profound assurance that suffering is not the end of the story. It is the quiet conviction that, though the night is dark, the dawn will come. This hope is what sustains the soul in its darkest hours, what gives it the courage to take one more step, to endure one more moment, even when the way forward seems utterly impossible. It is important to recognize that the soul's resilience is not a solitary achievement. While the individual must face their trials alone in one sense, there is also a sense in which no soul is ever truly alone. The resilience of the soul is often nurtured by a connection to something greater, whether it be the love of another, the call of a higher purpose, or the quiet but unshakable presence of the divine. These connections, though unseen, provide the soul with the strength to persevere when all else seems lost. There is also a peculiar quality to the soul's resilience. It often shines brightest in the midst of brokenness. Just as a cracked vessel can allow light to pour through its fractures, so too does the wounded soul often reveal a beauty and strength that would otherwise remain hidden. This is not to glorify suffering or to suggest that it is inherently good, but to acknowledge that even in the midst of pain, there can be a profound and redemptive power at work. The resilient soul is not untouched by suffering, far from it. It bears the marks of its trials, the scars of its battles. But these marks are not signs of defeat, they are badges of honor, evidence of the soul's capacity to endure and to overcome. They are reminders that, though we may be wounded, we are not destroyed; though we may falter, we are not finished. What makes the soul's resilience so remarkable is that it often emerges in the most unexpected ways. A person who seems outwardly weak may display an inner strength that puts the strongest warrior to shame. A moment of crushing despair may give birth to a renewed sense of purpose. The soul's resilience is not bound by the logic of the world, it is a mystery, a reflection of the divine image in which we are made. This resilience is not a denial of suffering, but a transformation of it. It is the ability to take the broken pieces of our lives and, with trembling hands, begin to rebuild. It is the courage to face each day, not because we know what it will bring, but because we have faith that, whatever comes, the soul will endure. It is the quiet but unyielding affirmation that, though we are finite beings, there is something infinite within us, a spark of eternity that no trial, no loss, and no despair can extinguish. In the grand drama of life, we are often drawn to the visible triumphs, the moments of applause, the glittering prizes, the recognition of the crowd. These are the victories that the world celebrates, the achievements that fill pages of history books and adorn the walls of homes. Yet there exists another kind of victory, one that is neither loud nor ostentatious, a triumph that takes place in the quiet chambers of the heart and soul. This is the unseen victory, a conquest that is no less real for being invisible, no less significant for being unacknowledged. Unseen victories are often the hardest won. They are the triumphs over inner demons, the quiet resistance to despair, the steadfast clinging to hope when all external evidence suggests otherwise. They are the moments when the soul, battered by the storms of life, refuses to surrender to bitterness or defeat. Such victories are not measured by worldly standards, they cannot be quantified or displayed. Yet they are the foundation upon which all true greatness is built. The unseen victory begins in the hidden battles of the heart. These battles are not waged on public stages, but in the secret places of the soul, where no eyes can see and no applause can reach. They are fought in the stillness of the night, in the solitude of a troubled mind, in the quiet resolve to rise again after each fall. These battles often seem small and insignificant, but their outcomes shape the very core of who we are. Consider the person who, day after day, chooses kindness in the face of cruelty, patience in the face of provocation, and faith in the face of uncertainty. Their victories are not accompanied by fanfare, they pass unnoticed by the world. Yet each act of grace, each moment of perseverance, is a triumph over the forces that seek to darken the human spirit. Such victories, though unseen, are profound, for they illuminate the truth that the greatest battles are those fought within. Unseen victories also reveal the extraordinary power of resilience. To endure hardship without losing hope, to face disappointment without succumbing to despair, to carry on when every fiber of one's being longs to give up, these are acts of quiet heroism that often go unrecognized. The world may never know the weight of the burdens carried by such individuals, but their unseen victories stand as a testament to the strength and dignity of the human soul. There is a paradox at the heart of the unseen victory. It is both deeply personal and profoundly universal. Each person's inner battles are unique, shaped by their circumstances, experiences, and struggles. Yet in the act of overcoming, they join a great and timeless narrative, the story of humanity's enduring spirit. To triumph in the unseen is to participate in a shared legacy of courage and hope, a legacy that transcends individual lives and speaks to the very essence of what it means to be human. Unseen victories often demand a kind of faith that is difficult to sustain. It is the faith that our efforts, though unnoticed, are noticed, are not in vain, that our struggles, though hidden, have meaning, that our small acts of goodness, though overlooked, contribute to a greater purpose. This faith is not easy to hold, for the world frequently measures worth in terms of visibility and recognition. Yet the unseen victory reminds us that true value lies not in what is seen, but in what is eternal. Such victories also teach us humility, for they are rarely achieved by our own strength alone. In the depths of our struggles, we often find ourselves reaching beyond our own resources, drawing upon a power greater than ourselves. Whether this power is understood as the grace of the divine, the support of unseen hands, or the resilience of the human spirit, it is a reminder that we are never truly alone in our battles. The unseen victory is also a victory over the tyranny of appearances. In a world that prizes outward success, it is easy to become enslaved to the need for validation, to measure our worth by the applause of others. But the unseen victory frees us from this bondage, for it is achieved not for the sake of recognition, but for the sake of what is right and true. It is a triumph of integrity over pretense, of substance over form, of the eternal over the fleeting. In many ways, the unseen victory is the purest form of triumph, for it is untainted by ego or self-interest. It is not achieved to impress others or to gain advantage, but to uphold the values and convictions that define us. It is the quiet but unwavering stand for what is good, even when no one is watching. And in this purity lies its power, for such victories have the capacity to transform not only the individual, but also the world around them. Perhaps the greatest beauty of the unseen victory is its enduring nature. While the accolades of the world fade and the monuments of human achievement crumble, the victories of the soul endure. They leave an indelible mark on the character of the individual, shaping them into a person of depth, strength, and compassion. And though these victories may be unseen by the world, they are not forgotten, for they are etched into the fabric of eternity.